I'm David Charvet with Charvet Classic Cars. We're here in the showroom today with a 1928 Packard 533 Runabout. I'm going to show you a little bit about it. We'll come back and tell you some more. In 1928, the economy was at a high, the stock market was booming, and people were making money hand over fist. And there was a whole group of people that became known as cafe society, people who had plenty of money and nowhere to spend it. Well, they found a place to spend it if they bought one of these. And this car is model 533, and that signifies a 5th series Packard 6 on a 133-inch wheelbase. There are not many of these left today. My research shows this is one of 3 that are known. So it's a pretty rare car, and a lot of people have forgotten about the Packard 6, and really these were made from 1920 up until this last model year, 1928, or last series, the 5th series. They then came back, the Packard 6 came back in 1937 as the 115, and then later the 110. And it really was used up until the mid-1940s, post-war era, to power taxi cabs. So the 6 is a great engine. It's been overshadowed somewhat by the Packard 8, and because they frankly made more Packard 8s, so that makes sense. But the 6-cylinder engine is no slouch. This is a 289 cubic inch engine, again a flathead straight 6, and it creates 81 horsepower. Now you compare that to a comparable Packard 8 of this time frame. The Packard 8 produced 90 horsepower. Though you had 9 more horsepower, but you also had a lot of added weight with the Packard 8 that you don't have with the 6. It's several hundred pounds lighter in the engine. And of course, this body style, the Runabout, the Speedster Runabout, is the lightest body style that you could buy. And it was made only in this series, in the 5th series. So it's a pretty rare car. They say there are 3 that I know of. There may be some more hiding, but it's not a high production car. I don't think it ever was. This car, when it was restored, people asked about the color. Well, there was an ad that Packard ran in the Literary Digest in December of 1927, touting their new models. And the car they show had a similar red-colored fenders and a light gray body. So this color was something that you could get, of course, with Packard. If you paid an extra $100, they paint the car any color you wanted to. And with this car, it fits because this is low, it's rakish, it's sexy, it's a Playboy's car. It really is. It's a car that you would take to the golf course. And of course, it has two golf club doors, one on each side of the body. It's got a rumble seat. Windshield will fold out. It's really the cat's pajamas, as it was said in 1928. So lots of chrome on this car, the big drum headlights, which are wonderful. And it's just all the little bits and styling cues on this car that make it really lovely. And of course the wire wheels, which add to that sex appeal as well. Usually these cars came with disc wheels. The wire wheels were an upgrade, and they really make it with this car. Let's take a look around inside the driver's compartment. You know, Packard did not cut any corners with a 6-cylinder car, not a bit. It is every bit as luxurious and every bit as well made as the 8-cylinder cars were of this era. In restoration, this car was beautifully done and really nice. The steering wheel is wood. It's kind of the last era of the all-wood steering wheels, and it's, again, beautifully done. It's tight, it's nice, and it allows you great control of the car on the road. If we look at the instrument panel from left to right, first we have the clock, next we have the amp gauge, in the center you have the gas gauge, next you have the oil pressure gauge, and then you have the speedometer. On this car, I have noticed the gas gauge does not read, and that is pretty typical of these King Sealy gauges. They can be repaired with a dye because they look like a thermometer, and so it has a red dye in it and tells you how much gas is in the tank. Again, it does not read, but like a Model T, I just put a stick in the tank and there you go. The clock I also don't believe is working at this point. So again, these are a couple of things, but you have oil pressure and you have the amp gauge. The important things are working on this car. It runs cool. It has a motometer on the hood of the car at the radiator cap, and that works as well. It doesn't run hot. It has a 5-gallon cooling system in it. Keeps it very cool, and it runs right down the road with no issues. And having driven it, it's really fun to drive. If you look at the steering wheel, you have the throttle here, which allows you to run the engine up or down speed-wise without having to use the floor feed. And a lot of people use this as a cruise control back in the day. You can adjust that up and down as you want to go faster or slower, again, without putting your foot on the gas pedal. On the other side here, we have the lighting controls. First position gives you cowl lights on the outside. Next position gives you low beams out front, and then final position gives you high beams. This car is also fitted with a spotlight, outside spotlight here, which is controlled by pulling the knob off and on. And that's pretty simple. That's about all there is to it. The starter is on the floor, which was typical, and your key switch is right above the steering column. You notice the steering column is chrome plated too, so it's, again, a flashy car, and also chrome plating on all this garnish molding around. As I say, this was a Playboy's car. There is no question about it. You had The Great Gatsby, the book which F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote about that era, and certainly this was a car that Jay Gatsby would certainly have been seen in back in the day. You do have storage too. You have storage in the doors. You've got flaps on each side, which give you storage within the doors. You've got another storage compartment over on the passenger side, and you also have a storage compartment right behind me, which opens up, and that allows you to put tools or other things that you want in there. The top is easy to put up and down. It's a one-person top, and there are side curtains for this car. You notice there are no windows in the doors, and that's, of course, indicates a roadster, and that's what this car is a roadster, really. So windshield wiper, by the way, is up here, and it's manually operated right here. You can turn it back and forth, and there you go. This is not really a car you're going to drive in the rain, most likely. You can, certainly, but it's a fair weather car. And on the road, it's comfortable in the 40 to 50 mile an hour range. Keep in mind the national speed limit was 35 miles an hour in 1928. And this is geared with the gearing is right around 433, I think, in the rear end. And that was pretty typical of cars of this era, so you had enough torque. It's a 3-speed transmission and shifts really well. It's a straight cut gears, but there's really no clashing. If you pause between your shifts slightly, like a 2 count, you shift and you wait 1, 2, and you can shift again. And all you're trying to do is match the revs of the engine a little bit with the shifting, and so you don't bind up the transmission. And it's really not hard to drive at all. I've never had to double clutch with it at all. Again, it's just, you keep your revs where they should be, and when you drive it, you get a feel for the car after you drive it a few times, and you'll be driving with no issues at all with this car. It's really fun, and I think it's probably time we take it out for a drive.
Well, we're ready to go for a ride. Brake is released, first gear, away we go. We're in third gear, high gear. As you can see, it pulls away with plenty of power. If you're moving even slightly, the steering really is quite easy with this car. Again, we're still in high gear. If you're wondering what this little button is on the steering column, that's an auxiliary turn signal, which I use on all my cars, and it's interchangeable between all cars. It's not included with this car, but it's easy to find. And you simply push the button, makes a beeping sound, and your turn signals work outside. The car always draws attention wherever you go. Slowing down or coming to a corner, if you're rolling through, you really don't need to downshift at all with this car. You stay in high gear and just step on it. The brakes are very good on this car too. So if you have any questions about this Packard or any of the other cars we represent, feel free to give me a call at 503-309-7729 or find us online at charvetclassiccars.com. I'm David Charvet. Thanks for watching.